Imagine returning home after a long day, eager to see your family, to kiss your child goodnight, only to never make it back. What would you do if someone you trusted betrayed you in the most unimaginable way? What if the person you loved most was secretly plotting your end? Tonight, we step into the life and the death of Robert Lemon, a gentle giant whose world would be shattered by betrayal, greed, and murder. Could you see the danger lurking behind the smiles, behind the laughter of those closest to you? Robert Lemon was a man whose size and presence could intimidate, but those who knew him called him a gentle giant. To his friends and family, he was a devoted husband, a loving father of two, and a man with an infectious charm. Outside of his work at BNSF Railway, Robert's life was filled with laughter, parties, and a tight-knit social circle known as the Wolf Pack, a group of friends who were as inseparable as family. Robert and his wife, Sabrina, shared a bond that seemed unbreakable. From attending Mass together every Sunday to baptisms and family gatherings, their life appeared idyllic. Their home in Silver Lakes, a picturesque town about 99 miles from Los Angeles, was filled with warmth, laughter, and the promise of stability. Yet beneath the surface of this perfect life were cracks that would eventually shatter everything. Sabrina and Robert had entered an open arrangement, a decision that was unconventional but, to their friends, seemed harmless. Life continued, full of parties, drinks, and shared moments. But even in happiness, shadows lingered. Robert's work at the BNSF rail yard was demanding and sometimes dangerous. Thieves often patrolled the industrial zones, threatening the safety of workers. But Robert was vigilant, intelligent, strong, and experienced. He was respected for his work ethic, admired for his dedication, and loved for his protective nature. Everyone who knew him agreed. Robert had it all. The night of the murder, Sunday, August 17, 2017, was like any other evening, or so it seemed. Robert set out on his routine 85-mile journey to cover a co-worker's shift at the BNSF warehouse. At home, Sabrina prepared for the night, unaware that the ordinary would turn into tragedy. Their daughter's first day of school was the next day, and she waited eagerly for her father's goodnight kiss. But that kiss would never come. Inside the warehouse, Robert's replacement arrived, only to find him lying lifeless against his work truck. 2 gunshot wounds, one to the upper torso, one to the head. The crime scene was meticulous, almost too clean. Drawers pulled out, papers scattered. A staged robbery, investigators would soon realize. A single unexploded bullet found above his head became the first clue in a complex puzzle. The detectives at the scene faced confusion. Robert Lemon, by all accounts, was a man loved and admired. Who could want him dead? No witnesses, no CCTV footage from inside. The only visual evidence was outside the warehouse. A figure walking with a limp, grainy, and unidentifiable, leaving more questions than answers. Back at home, Sabrina received the news. Shock, disbelief, and grief consumed her. She retreated into herself, overwhelmed by the reality that her world had collapsed. Meanwhile, detectives began the painstaking work of piecing together the evidence, following leads, and asking the question that would haunt everyone involved. Why was Robert Lemon killed? As part 1 ends, the audience is left with tension, questions, and the chilling realization that in Robert's life, appearances were deceiving. And in death, betrayal would prove far more dangerous than anyone could imagine. The morning after Robert Lemon's murder, the sleepy town of Silver Lakes awoke to shocking news. A man beloved by his family and respected by his community had been gunned down at his workplace. Detectives swarmed the BNSF warehouse, collecting evidence, interviewing employees, and meticulously documenting the scene. The unexploded bullet above Robert's head hinted at something more than a simple robbery. Drawers were rifled through, office papers strewn, yet nothing of real value had been taken. The stage was set, not for theft, but for murder. Investigators faced their first challenge. Robert was universally admired. Friends, family, co-workers, everyone described him as honest, loyal, and kind-hearted. If he had no enemies, Who could commit such a violent act? The question haunted the detectives as they combed through leads. Footage from the exterior cameras captured a shadowy figure, a man walking with a limp. Grainy and unclear, the image provided little to identify the killer, but it confirmed that someone had been on the property, moving with intent. Meanwhile, Robert's employer offered a reward, hoping to generate leads, but tips came fast and false. Detectives realized they were hunting a ghost in the darkness. Weeks into the investigation, an unexpected lead emerged. Robert's friend, Jason Bertine, came forward with troubling information about a man named Jonathan Hearn, a firefighter and acquaintance from their social circle. Jason revealed that Jonathan had a romantic history with Robert's wife, Sabrina. The detectives now faced a new dimension to the crime. Was this murder personal? Motive shifted from robbery to betrayal, jealousy, and obsession. Evidence began to align. Jonathan owned a motorcycle, and witnesses had spotted a figure on a motorcycle near the warehouse. Could this be the same person captured in the CCTV footage? Complicating matters, Jonathan had left behind a trail of messages and a letter full of apologies, vague yet suggestive. Detectives suspected a connection to the murder but lacked definitive proof. Every lead seemed tantalizing yet frustratingly incomplete. Sabrina's social life and unconventional arrangement added layers to the mystery. While some dismissed it as irrelevant, investigators couldn't ignore the possible motives simmering behind closed doors: jealousy, betrayal, and perhaps even greed. The threads of the story were tangled, and every day the detectives worked felt like chasing shadows. By now, investigators had pieced together a timeline. Robert left home on the night of August 17th, his routine trip interrupted forever. The warehouse became a crime scene that held both answers and questions. CCTV footage from nearby businesses provided small breakthroughs. They identified every motorist passing the warehouse, except for a mysterious motorcyclist. The helmet obscured any facial recognition, leaving detectives desperate for clarity. Every theory pointed toward Jonathan Hearn, yet concrete evidence remained elusive. In a calculated move, detectives placed a wiretap on Sabrina's phone. Every conversation was scrutinized, every pause analyzed for hidden meaning. Moments of discussion about faith and psalms, a religious motif in their calls, began to hint at a deeper, more personal conflict. As pressure mounted, the investigators devised a clever ploy, informing Sabrina that DNA evidence linked the suspects to the scene. The hope was that fear would provoke a slip, a revelation, a reaction that could unravel the mystery. And indeed, Sabrina immediately called Jonathan. Though they never confessed outright, detectives sensed tension, guilt, and concealment, the walls of deception beginning to crack. The crisis was clear. The investigation had reached a boiling point. Leads were converging, suspects identified, but the truth remained just out of reach. The stage was set for confrontation, for revelations that would expose the dark undercurrents of betrayal, desire, and calculated murder. Detectives closed in. Search warrants uncovered Jonathan Hearn's motorcycle, helmet, and red bandana, evidence linking him to Robert Lemon's murder. Jonathan confessed. He carried out the shooting following Sabrina's instructions. The courtroom tension was palpable. Sabrina insisted on her innocence, but evidence and testimony painted a damning picture. Betrayal, deceit, and a calculated plan that ended a life. Sabrina was convicted. Jonathan sentenced to 25 years. Robert Lemon's life had been cut short, leaving grief and questions in its wake. Could you have seen the danger in someone you trusted? How far can desire and betrayal go? Silver Lakes remained quiet, a town forever marked by tragedy, yet a stark reminder. Truth eventually surfaces, no matter how deeply it is buried.